Grateful for the Attorney General's office for allowing us to gather this evening to get an update on the recent investigation into a couple businesses here on the north side. And so without any other delay, I'm going to hand over to our Attorney General and his office to get tonight started. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Pastor. So look, everybody, we are in sacred space right now, and we're here because of the loving kindness of this congregation and this pastor. And so please put your hands together. This is not just the auditorium, this is the sanctuary. So thank you all, thank you. And I also want to give great thanks to everybody who made this moment possible. Look, before the Attorney General got involved, you had the city of Minneapolis and Project Endeavor that was busy working hard to make sure that we brought peace to this corner. And I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank Commissioner Alexander, and I think I see the man from Newark over there, Chief O'Hara right there. They've been working hard, and I want to thank the pastors. Before anybody, the pastors were out here 21 days of peace. Let's hear it for that. You know, I see Reverend McAfee over there. Reverend McAfee contacted Inspector Adams and said, where are the hot spots? And Inspector Adams said, here, here, and here. And then the congregation members said, we're going to be out there with cell phones and lawn chairs. And they reduced the crime on those corners. Am I right about that, Reverend McAfee? Right. And so there's been a lot of effort to try to bring peace to this community, and everybody in this room has played a critical part. Bishop Howell, I know right now if I start naming names, I'm going to mess something up, so I'm just going to say thank you to all. But I want to be real clear. Last September, there were like 3 shooting incidents right out on this corner. And I raised my kids 2 blocks from here. I can see the house that I raised my son in, my council member who's here. Where's Jeremiah? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. He used to go, when Jeremiah went to do wrestling, he'd walk on this corner to go up to Fairview, right? And so this is where we live. So these corners, they quite honestly were known as not a safe place to be, particularly at certain times of day. And everybody here who knows. And so when Project Endeavor and 21 Days of Peace and the pastors got together and said, we're going to insist on peace on this corner, we looked at what we could do from the Attorney General's office, looked at the nuisance statute. And I contacted my friend Mike Freeman, and I'm so glad that his efforts are being succeeded and followed up with our county attorney, Moriarty, who's here today, and with the city. And the 3 government entities, the state, the city, and the county, filed a nuisance action. Is that right, Mr. Mayor? But the nuisance statute says that the target of the nuisance, and I'm talking about Winter, and I'm talking about Merwin's, has a right to mitigate the nuisance. They have a right to abate the nuisance, meaning they can, if they stop, that would preclude further legal action. And it stopped. Project Endeavor, the churches, the pastors, the city, the police department, the community, the neighbors, we haven't had an additional offense on this corner so that we could file our injunction. That's a good thing. Since last September. Now look, we are great at talking about what's wrong and what's broken and what's not working and where we failed. But this corner is a corner that I feel comfortable allowing my loved ones to walk up to now. And I think we should mark that. Now, we're not stopping. Is anybody here ready to stop? We are serious about peace, not only on this corner, but in this whole community, in this whole city. We're serious about it, and we're going to have it, but we're going to have it together. We're moving from what I would describe as a litigation phase to a monitoring phase. Litigation, where we are about to sue you. Here's the complaint. So the next thing you do, you're getting sued. Well, they didn't do the next thing since last September. So we can't file that lawsuit, but we will if they do anything else. But they're going to have to do something else. It became clear to me, I have a staff member here. His name is Jason Plagencool. There he is, the tall fellow right over there. And he calls me about 2 months ago and he says, well, there hasn't been any new incidents, Keith. Under the statute, we can't just sue them unless there's another incident. And we haven't had one. And I realized instantly, that's a good thing. The nickname for that gas station was the murder station. Am I making up stories on anybody? Am I making up stories? I'm not making up stories on anybody. That was the nickname for the place because it was so frequent. 3 shootings last September. We haven't had any new ones. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. I don't think I mentioned A Mother's Love. I mentioned Operation Endeavor, but we can do it again. I want to say thank you to Hennepin County Attorney's Office, City Attorney's Office, the mayor, everyone, and all of us are going to have to stay involved to keep this corner peaceful, and we got to spread the peace. Keep doing it. Now, when I called Pastor Edrin, he said, I don't know, Mr. Attorney General, if this is such a good idea because it's just the beginning of springtime. Didn't you say that, Pastor? He said, maybe we should keep it going a little longer. I said, I think you're right, but we're not taking our eye off the ball. Is anybody here ready to take their eye off the ball? Commissioner, are you about to stop? No way. No way. We're going to keep our focus, but when we've had a few months of peace and tranquility and strung them together with month after month after month, all the way up until now, we have to recognize that. So we're going to shift from litigation, ready to litigate, to monitoring. And if something else happens, we'll be back on top of this. Let's see if we can do another month after that, and another month after that. This is a good thing. So I just want to say, we're not done. The work will continue. And my office is ready to join with any other office where we have reason to believe that there are business entities or anybody else who is creating a nuisance by tolerating criminal conduct on their premises. We will swing into action fast. In fact, I'll wrap up by saying this. We have a working group at the Attorney General's office where what we do is we have criminal lawyers and we have consumer lawyers. Jason is a consumer lawyer. He's not a prosecutor. He doesn't go to court and prosecute crime. He sues people who put out bad products that aren't working properly. His team just led a successful effort to sue Juul, the vaping company. We got $60.5 million, biggest settlement in the whole country. That was yesterday. But if you sell a car that is so easy to steal, you might as well put a sticker on it that says, "Come steal me," like Kia and Hyundai are doing. Yeah, I said their names. Then that's a consumer issue. If you're maintaining housing in such poor condition that a person who wants to sell drugs and commit crimes thinks this is a good place to set up, then we have something to say about that, because as a tenant, you're a consumer. If you're selling guns to anybody with the money and you're not doing the proper checks and you're not doing the proper procedures, that's a consumer issue. We are developing a body of thought on how we use consumer justice to promote public safety. And yes, we're going to criminally prosecute people who violate the law, who hurt folks, rape, kill, rob. Some of those folks need to be in jail, but we need to ask a deeper question. Where are the guns coming from? Why is the housing in such poor condition where it's an attractive nuisance? Who's letting all this madness going on in the corner and not saying nothing about it, just sort of tolerating it? So we want to go, of course, directly to the source of the crime, but we also want to go upstream and look at the source of it and the people who profit from it, often who never get asked anything. We're going to ask them, how come your car don't have immobilizers in it? How come your property is a bad nuisance? How come your guns are ending up in the hands of of a gun trafficker? We're going to ask these questions. Do y'all think those are good questions to ask? Well, we're going to ask them. And so with that, I just want to say thank you again. There's going to be a few folks talking, but this is really your meeting and for you to ask any questions you want. But we got some folks who are going to present some things to you. Again, thanks all around. Project Endeavor led the way. Definitely appreciate it. The city, the pastors, the neighborhood, the community, everyone, thank you all around. Mother's Love, we push for peace. Are y'all in the house? Yeah, there you go. Yep, we push for peace. There they are. And I'm just gonna say, every time I go up to the Cub Foods and I see the T-shirts, I feel a little bit more comfortable. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to say thank you to Hennepin County again. Mike Freeman's not here, but he helped start this. Mary Moriarty is very courageously and responsibly maintaining the effort, and we appreciate that. Mary, please give us a word.
Thank you. Every day in the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, we see cases involving violence, trauma, and sadness. And every day we charge new cases involving violence, we prove those cases in court, and very often we send people to prison. And every day we are reminded that arrest and prosecution alone simply aren't enough to end the crime and violence in our neighborhoods. I am thankful to be here today to recognize progress in reducing reports of crime at these two properties. This was only possible because community came together and said, this has to end. This did not happen because we decided to double down on old approaches and simply upped enforcement and arrest at these two properties. This progress happened because we supported community-driven efforts to intervene, we used the law in a creative way, and we made a difference. The two properties that were the focus of this effort have seen an endless stream of police calls over many, many years. They have been the location of far too many of the cases our office prosecutes. And they have been the scene of lives lost, trauma inflicted, and significant violence. But I'm glad to be able to say that since October of last year, crime reports coming from these two properties dramatically declined. This is great news. Many people had a hand in what we are recognizing today. Some of them are in the room today, and some of them are not. I am grateful to everyone here for the role you played over the past 7 months. Multiple levels of government, each with a different tool in our respective tool belts, played a role. Community members who are here used their voices and influence and authority and made an impact. I'm grateful to you all. I also want to recognize some who are not here today, but who also played an important role in stemming the tide of violence on these two properties. I want to start with the property owners themselves. Since we initiated this action, the businesses stepped up to address the illegal nuisance behaviors that were so problematic prior to October. Further legal action hasn't been necessary because they implemented proactive measures to ensure nuisance activity was no longer permitted on these properties. And all signs point to a commitment to continue those efforts into the future. I also want to recognize the Office of Violence Prevention at the City of Minneapolis and the work that's been done to develop and uplift community-led safety strategies, and that has been instrumental in the reduction of violence we are seeing at this intersection. We are here today to recognize progress at these properties, which is really important. But we all know that we have not solved the larger issue of crime and violence in our communities. The cooperation and alignment you see on display here among all levels of government and the community is a model for how we are approaching these issues. It will take all of us coming together as a community, as a county, and as a state to do our part and to refuse to accept violence. It will take all of us coming together to address these issues using not only arrest and prosecution, but instead using all the tools and resources we have available to us. Thank you.
Thank you to our Hennepin County Attorney, Mary Moriarty, some strong words there. And a huge thank you to our Attorney General, Keith Ellison. You know, this is a person that represents the entire state of Minnesota, and simultaneously, he's a neighbor. I see him out on a every other day basis going for a run. He cares about the macro as to what happens in our state. He also cares about the micro on what happens on each individual block through our city. And when he gave me a call last year, and it wasn't one, we were talking to each other probably every few days about safety issues broadly in the city of Minneapolis, but also on the specific intersection. It was so helpful to have somebody that was willing to utilize tools at their disposal in a different way. And this is really one prime example of that. Working specifically with Merwin's and Winter, working specifically to find really innovative tools to push back on the violence that had plagued that intersection and more broadly on this area of West Broad. And if you look at the trajectory of where we're going, I'll tell you, it is so positive. There's so many people who I want to thank who are deserving of thanks. In addition to those that are speaking here today, there's a few that I want to call out quite directly. One of them is our city attorney, Kristen Anderson. I don't see her here with us, but she was a huge part of us at the city of Minneapolis signing on to that nuisance letter. The second person is our head of economic development, Eric Hansen. He does a lot of this behind-the-scenes work that you might, and yes, he does deserve a huge round of applause. He was specifically involved in this intersection, working with these properties on a daily basis to figure out a strategy to change the dynamic that we're seeing, but also he's behind a whole lot of strategies on West Broadway, making sure that communities of color aren't just tenants in these buildings as businesses, but literally owning the underlying real estate. It's a big deal. And you know, when you talk about crime, there are 100 reasons for an uptick in crime. There are 100 reasons for a decrease in crime. One of the reasons for a decrease in crime is the tremendous work that's happening in our Office of Community Safety, and thank you, Commissioner. It's happening with our Minneapolis Police Department, and thank you, Chief O'Hara. The work that you all are doing and the work that your police officers are doing every single day. They are understaffed. They are often overworked. They often don't get the credit that they deserve, but we appreciate them. The work of our community partners, and you know, this is the part where it really gets dangerous because there are too many to mention here in this room. But our police, our Office of Community Safety, and our Attorney General couldn't possibly do this work without all of you. And we Push for Peace, you know, stepped up at that particular intersection. And look, like the Attorney General said, we've seen a significant drop in calls for service over this past year. There are some days when the perception matches with the data. There are some days when it doesn't. But I'll tell you, this is a time, and this is an intersection, where both the perception and the data are matching up. We have seen a tremendous drop in calls for service. We have seen the number of shootings go down dramatically. We have seen the amount of problematic activity that's happening in and around those two particular businesses take a dramatic dive, and that helps people. That's what the numbers show. But in addition to those numbers, I can't tell you how many anecdotal stories that I've also heard about how their walk to work, people in this neighborhood have had their walk to work or their walk to the grocery store or their walk to get their hair cut changed dramatically because of the shift at this particular location. There was this guy that reached out to me, I don't know how long ago, and he was endeavoring he had endeavored, whatever the word is, to run every single block in the city. The final swath of Minneapolis that he wanted to hit was Lyndale on the far north to Lyndale on the far south. And on the way, of course, was Lyndale and Broadway. And I was probably just making an excuse because I needed to get a little bit of a water break and maybe stretch my legs, but we stopped in and, got myself a Gatorade and, had a good long conversation with both the security guards that were there as well as the clerk working the register. And they noted that the whole intersection had taken a dramatic shift. It's those conversations, those quiet conversations that oftentimes mean more to me, that says that we're doing our jobs even more than the underlying data and the numbers. But the underlying data and the numbers, I want people to hear this. I want people to hear this. We talk about crime. When crime is up, we should acknowledge it. We should also acknowledge when crime is down. I'm talking about citywide now. Homicides are down 33% year to date. Carjackings are down 44% year to date. Gunshot wound victims are down 33% year to date. Shots fired calls are down 30% year to date. And by the way, our police department, led by our chief and our commissioner, has now recovered well over 300 guns from the street so far this year. That is a record pace. That is a citywide record pace. So this is what the data points to, and the data points to some true progress along these corridors and at that specific intersection. And so, public safety work, it's not limited to law enforcement. It's not limited to legal actions. It's about housing. It's about business development. It's about opportunity and resilience and all the things that we're pushing for at the city. And so I just want to thank everybody that has had a big or a small part in pushing for this progress. It makes a huge difference. Speaking of those people that are really pushing for the progress is our pastor here, Pastor Edris, who is, give him I've had the opportunity to spend some time with you. I've had an opportunity to be in your church here as of recent, and thank you so much for hosting. Thank you to Reverend McAfee. Thank you to Bishop Howell. Thank you to all of the others on this corridor and beyond that have really stepped up. But we're in your place of worship right now, and we so deeply appreciate your willingness to host us. And so, Pastor, give him a huge round of applause. Come up and say a few words.
Thank you all so much again for being here tonight. I put down some notes because I'm a black pastor trained in the Black Baptist tradition, and so if I did not, we would be here for a while. 2015, 2016, our church purchased several adjacent lots on this block as we were looking for a permanent worship home. We've been worshiping for 13 years here on the north side in various schools, Patrick Henry and White Middle School, and then North High. And we really wanted to find a place to put down roots here on the north side. And we found this place where there had been an abandoned landscaping warehouse and 2 abandoned homes on this place. And we decided to invest here. And since that time, our church has invested millions of dollars in construction, programming, events, time, effort, prayer, blood, sweat, and tears, as some might say, in creating a safe space on this corner here at Broadway in Lyndale. And so as we talk today about the last 7 months of peace, I want to be honest and say this work didn't start 7 months ago. It's not over, and it didn't start 7 months ago. And so while I'm grateful for what we've seen, it's dishonest to say that this work has actually been done over the last 7 months. We've seen the best of this community in this place, and we've experienced some of the harshest aspects of what it means to be here on the north side in this place as well. Too many robberies, too many shootings, too many hours spent looking over security film to figure out which shooter it was that fired a gun aimlessly and someone was shot and killed, dead bodies lying in public spaces. That is a reality here as well. Too many drug deals allowed in the entryway of businesses here on this corner. Too many funerals and memorials, and too little being done by businesses who profit, in my opinion, off the pain of Northsiders. That too is the story on this corner. Last fall, we launched a petition that got a lot of support, and a few weeks later, I'm not saying one led to the other, a few weeks later, we heard about the investigation that the Attorney General's office was starting. And I'm grateful because finally somebody who had some official authority said there's something that can be done about what's happening. Somebody with some official capacity said we can expect more and we should expect more from businesses operating in this community. And so I am grateful for the Attorney General and his office. I'm certainly grateful for it. But I don't want us to rush today and pat ourselves on the back too much. I don't want us to hang a mission accomplished banner. We know what that looks like. Don't forget the fact that we're coming out of winter, and it's been a long, drawn-out, harsh winter. What might that have to say about the data? Don't forget the fact that there were people here working before the last 7 months in a multiplicity of ways. Counseling and drug treatment and harm reduction in a number of different ways. Let's not forget that. And so while I'm grateful for what we've seen and the progress that has happened, there's still a lot of work to be done. And I believe I have in my body some of the tension that many in this community feel, that perhaps the moment that the Attorney General's office backs off just a little bit, what's to keep these businesses from doing the same? Why did it take 15, 20, 30 years for the things that have happened the last 7 months to happen? And how do we make sure that that doesn't happen as soon as we're done here today? And so I want to honor what you said here today, Attorney General. I want to honor what the mayor just said. I want to honor everyone who will speak here today, but our work is not done. In fact, our work is just beginning. And I hope we can be honest about that in the midst of saying, yeah, we're grateful for the progress we've seen. So thanks again for being here and for allowing us to be a part of this.
Good evening, and thank you, Pastor Edwards. Let me just start by saying this. You're absolutely right, Pastor Edwards. This work has began a long time ago, and everything is a process getting up to the point. But I'm going to speak to the last 9 months that I have been here for certain, and certainly with the support of the Attorney General and the support of others throughout our public safety community, and more importantly, the support from people who live in this community and across this city. The numbers that you heard that reflects a downswing in violent crime is something that we cannot ignore, because it is important to know that it's going in the right direction. But we can't forget the fact that there are still victims out there every day, and we still have unsolved cases out there every day. But here's what's critically important for me. When I was brought here as commissioner, I'm responsible for 5 public safety platforms, and that's the Department of Neighborhood Safety, 911, Emergency Management, Fire, and Police. And each one of those executive in each one of those jobs make it possible for us to do the work that we do every day. No one platform does this work by itself. It takes all 5 of us to be able to do it. We meet weekly. We talk about the challenges that are in our community. But what really makes the work we do really come to life is because of people like yourself. That's the real reason. Because no matter how hard we work or whatever it is that we do, if we don't have the community support, if we didn't have the community of support, General, we would not been able to do the things that we've done up to this point. The work that Chief O'Hara does and his personnel does every day, and the challenges that they're confronted with, they could not make that work without you and your support. So everybody plays a huge, important job in the whole public safety scheme. There's no one organization, no one entity, no one person, and everybody in this room is a leader. Everybody in this room is a leader in some type of form or fashion. So I'm not going to belabor the point here, even though I'm blessed, dressed as a Black Baptist minister. I promise you I won't keep you, but thank you for what you're doing, because we can't do the work that we're doing unless we have you as our partners. Policing in this country was never designed, was never stood up for police by itself to get the job done. It was always built as a partnership. And we're only as strong as our community, and our community is only as strong as its public safety platform. So thank you, and I want to invite up Chief O'Hara to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Pastor Edrin, Bishop Howell, good to see you. Any other members of the clergy are here. Thank you for having us here in this sacred space. When I came to Minneapolis, I've been the police chief now since the beginning of November, but before that, one of the first times I came to the city to meet with the mayor and meet with people involved in the hiring process, I received a tour of the city. And the very first place I came was this corner right here. And I'd been reading the news, and I knew right before I came, there were 4 people who were shot here. And it was during the day, daytime, and we pulled up at the corner, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, it looked like the San Gennaro Festival in New York City. There were people everywhere, you know, hand-to-hand transactions, people using. It was crazy. And it felt like, you know, knowing that there were just 4 people shot here, it almost felt like, what is going on? You know, how is this acceptable right after something like that had happened? And just, you know, reading and watching and listening, shortly thereafter, people from the community coming out and speaking out about this, people starting to come together. I think this is a story about what is possible when everybody comes together collaboratively and nobody's looking to take credit. Because that's what law enforcement and public safety is really about. It is about working together collaboratively, not just law enforcement, which we need. And we need all of law enforcement to help us. You know, we need the feds, we need the state, we need the county involved, of course. But we need community. And I know there's a lot of folks from community that do community-based, violence prevention work. E is here, Trey is here. I know Reverend McAfee, Jamil's in the back. There's other. I know someone from A Mother's Love was here. I see. It's these organizations. You know, we push for peace. Everybody that's out here working with law enforcement, pulling in the same direction. Everybody coming together. This is how something like this is possible. And like our county attorney said, to paraphrase what she said, we can't arrest our way out of these problems, right? That should be obvious to us at this point. So it's everything that we're doing, and we have a lot to thank for the leadership of our Attorney General, Keith Ellison, his actions here to create creative civil solutions to this problem here and to others, to help members of our community here who have been, living in a situation that's been unacceptable for too long. And obviously, since all of these initiatives have been undertaken, we've been hearing tonight, yes, the data shows that there are reductions. And yes, there are people behind these numbers. Citywide year to date, there have been 55, as of today, 55 fewer people shot in Minneapolis. That's 55 fewer families who have had a family member hit by a bullet, and that's huge. But like everyone has said, there's still a very unacceptable level of serious street crime in our city, and we have to continue to do this work. But if you didn't hear, about the data and the numbers and official statistics, and you talk to folks who are out here, you could hear from people on the street that there is a very noticeable difference here. And it is not just because of law enforcement and all these law enforcement things that are happening. It is because of the civil work that our Attorney General is leading and all of the community-based work that is happening here that really is making a difference. So obviously over the last several months we have seen a lot of arrests by all of the different layers of law enforcement, to address a lot of these problems. And we will continue to push those efforts to go after as precisely as possible those who are out here pulling triggers and causing the most harm in our community, because everyone in this city, everyone, no matter what your address is, has a right to live in safety. So we have to continue those law enforcement efforts. And again, as an outsider, I have to tell you, I've been very much welcomed around the city. But one of the first arrests I made was right over here, just on the first block north of the intersection of 26th Avenue. A fentanyl arrest I was there, we participated in. And as soon as we got out of the car, random folks stopped as they were driving by to thank us. Thank you, officers, for being here. And that's what I've seen every time I've been around the city, but especially in North Minneapolis. People are so hungry just for safety, and they are so thankful. And so I appreciate that so much, the support of our community to what our officers here are doing. And again, I have to thank our Attorney General for his leadership on this issue, holding businesses accountable. If we take the problems that we're taking seriously, we have to be doing everything we possibly can to address them. And that includes these civil remedies. And it includes, like you said, having leadership going after Kia and Hyundai for making cars that are too easy to steal, that don't have the safety features that were standard in the 90s, especially when we have young people dying in our community. So thank you for your leadership on that issue as well. I think, again, one of the most important factors that we do have to remember today here is our community partners and our residents. They have shown that a problem like what we were seeing here happen at this corner will not stand, because our residents, our community will not have it. So I'm incredibly proud and thankful to be a part of that, and we will be here to have your back and to continue to support this work. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to try to keep it short because I don't know that I can add too much, but I do want to say I want to address Pastor Edrin's comments just because when I first got in office, one of the first things, sorry, this thing is kind of glitching out, right? Moment. The intersection of West Broadway and Lindale has been one of the first priorities that I had to get involved in when I first got in office. And from talking to predecessors, I know that every single person who represented Ward 5 in the past has had to deal with some version of this intersection. And so when Pastor Edrin says that there's a lot of hesitancy, a lot of cautious optimism, as opposed to just outright optimism, I feel that, because this solution, for me, it was 6 years in the making. For other folks in the community, it was 30 years in the making. And so I really want to hold that. I want to acknowledge that that's what it took for us to get here. I want to say that for years there have been meetings from the West Broadway Business Coalition. There have been meetings across the community. 21 Days of Peace had a volunteer shot, Ms. Gloria Howard, and so it has not been an easy road. And so yes, I'm glad for where we're at. But I'm going to take Pastor Edrin's advice and not quite pat ourselves on the back. I want to acknowledge a few more folks before I sit down, and I really want to emphasize that that not being able to take legal action, enforcement action, not being able to initiate a lawsuit is a good thing, because it means that less people were harmed along the way. That's what it means. I also want to say that. And I know Trey can correct me if I'm wrong, but Trey from We Push for Peace, Trey Pollard, and Inspector Adams are in touch on a regular basis. I saw Inspector Adams right before I came here. Inspector Adams, before him, Inspector Pulfis, have been deeply involved in trying to address what's going on in this corner. Yes, they deserve applause. And I also want to acknowledge what the chief acknowledged, which is that I think it was through trial and error that we recognized that enforcement action alone was not going to get the job done in an intersection. Because I can tell you, and I think if the inspector were able to make it, he's at another event on Plymouth Avenue, he would tell you that they were going out there all the time. It didn't feel like they were making a difference because the activity was that aggressive on that intersection. And so it took enforcement action, it took civil remedies, and so I think that I know that us that are on the ground, first meeting you, then meeting myself, Inspector Adams, and the like, we are going to take this monitoring period very seriously. We're going to own that. Yeah. We know that the AG's office is going to own that, but we are going to own that ourselves as a community as well. And so I just wanted to reassure you all of that, and I wanted to thank everybody that took their time, that took their effort, that took their energy to demand a solution to that corner. And there are other corners across North Minneapolis, and so I'm hoping that we can use what's happened here as a blueprint to address Penwood, to address other intersections across the city and in North Minneapolis. So with that, I'll wrap up, and I just want to thank you all for being here today. Okay. Reverend Mack, please.
If I didn't know any better, I would almost think that New Salem and Reverend McAfee is the invisible man in the invisible church. We ain't just got here. We've been here. Before anybody ever made a move, we've been here on blocks, and the city ain't never partnered with us. Folk talk about 21 days apiece. Yeah, we've been doing it. We gonna do it because we can't help but do it because it's our people that's dying. June was shot at the murder station, and I had to go down and view his body, and his eye was hanging out. Not long ago, Prince was shot over there, and it set off a crime wave because people did not know where it came from. I was at the church, and the young lady out there, I don't know if she upped first or second, but she was killed. And one day we were out there, and one of the members of Bishop Howell's church, there was shooting over there by the drugstore, and the bullet hit her. Several questions that's caustic to me need to be raised. And I raise it in this context. On Irving, there was a burnout building off 12th and 13th. And we went over there and started doing some work over there. The city got up in arms about that boarded building, and they finally tore it down. How does a corner exist this long, have that many shots, that many murders, and nobody from the city, county, nor state has been calling for it to be redeveloped? Why do a mother's love, Lisa, bug me that we need to go shut that station down and shut this corner down? And we did it. Something ain't right, y'all. I've been around. I just ain't got here. Anything that has brought as much destruction and devastation to our community, like Merwin's and that gas station, and nobody has been talking about shutting it down. What is it in the political spectrum? Something ain't right. You can spit on me, but you can't tell me it's raining. Something wrong. Maybe that's why they don't like to deal with me.
Reverend McAfee, thank you for your very candid, clear words, and your congregation and your work. Let's hear it for our brother one more time, everybody. So, with the remaining time, let's have some dialogue. Very important to do that. I'll just recognize hands as I see them. And this is Keon right here. Keon's going to hold the mic for you. It's a service we provide. And if you could try to get your question out in a minute, and you don't have to you can use your minute any way you want, but try to work with a minute. Can we all, if we agree with 1 minute, can you clap your hands? Because if y'all seen the 4 or 5 minute question, right? Minute's good enough. So let's get started.
Thank you. My name is Felicia Perry. I live about a block away, which is why y'all saw me walking here. I'll get straight to my question because I don't have a minute. So accountability, what I'm hearing is accountability for Merwin owners. Looks like a lot of city resources invested in working with them to come up with innovative solutions. And I'm wondering where that same energy is for Black businesses, perhaps on the corridor, that aren't getting calls about having murders and an open drug market right at the front door.
It's a good question. Is anybody on economic development want to talk about that? Yeah, go for it.
Happy to do my best to speak on that. I think that the situation with Merwin's, and I'm not an attorney, so I'll let the attorney speak on the legal aspect. In my experience, in my 6 years, it has been incredibly difficult. I haven't found a single attorney who says you can just go in and shut them down. This is the closest that we came, quite honestly. And so that it's been frustrating for me. I know it's been frustrating for the businesses. I know it's been frustrating for the community. And so, so I think, Merwin's have had to show that they're gonna make a lot of changes in order to alleviate all of that. And I don't know. I mean, I personally don't feel, but I'm always willing to give feedback or critique that we've handed them a lot to them. Right? Hey, look, the law.
How are you? I don't think we've met in person. Courtney Godfrey. Talk time. I've been at several things with you, but we've never one-on-one.
So good so far.
Thanks for all you're doing to try to help with the city.
Hey man, I'm good, and you?
Sorry, Vinny, it's okay. Jerry will, you don't have to, he's okay. He's chill. You're good. I can clip this on him, Vinny. Don't stress. Okay. Rev, you were fired up out there, so hold your thoughts for a second while I get this on you. This is on. How are the grandkids?
They're great.
Yeah.
Simply marvelous.
I just had another one myself.
16-year-old.
16. I just had a second one myself, 5 months old now.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. She's got dedicated at church the other day, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jerry, everybody that stood up there today was, patting themselves on the back, applauding. Crime is down at this corner. We heard something different from you.
Those two businesses have been atrocious. And 6 or 7 months of alleged silence don't silence the life nor the blood from all of those who were lost beforehand. I have no trust in the ownership at all, and the city and the county, to me, should have shut those places down a long time ago. And again, no one was applauding or patting themselves on the back, but something is wrong here. If you got that many shots, if you got that many people killed in parking lots of businesses, normally they would be closed. Those buildings are still here, and something is wrong with that. To me, it is indicative of almost as what continues to go on even in the community. We get a little reprieve, and then we let things go and ride. No, I'm saying those two businesses, those owners need to be held accountable to another level. The businesses need to be shut down still. And if they really want to do something for the community, what is the investment of Merwin's been in our community? Other than extracting and taking everything else out. What have they done? Nothing. The gas station, what have they been doing in our community? Nothing. So they've continued on business as usual, and the only reason hey, what's up with you, black man? And the only reason why they changed now, trading them is over there and doing some things, and thank God for that. However, if they really want to do something, Why don't you take one of them suburban stores that you still own? Let Trade and them take ownership over there, and you change that in our community. You done made enough money off of us. If you really want to do something good, or show us a track record out of all of the money that you've extracted from our community, any of the investment that you put back into it. No, you maintained everything until we stood on your neck and got the Attorney General involved. Then you started doing something. We have no confidence in you, none.
So when the Attorney General announces today that they're not going to sue them for being in violation of the nuisance statute, you're disappointed in that?
No, I'm not, because they can't. You never want to ask them to do what they can't do. They don't have enough in order to do it right now. But if some other stuff happen, then fine. But I still say the businesses need to go. Their past history is rotten and sordid. No confidence.
Yeah. Thank you, Jerry. You said it well. Thanks.
So sorry.
Not a
this
problem.
happened. I'm a little terrified of this.
So is it fair to say
And,
when you hear
I can
these
tell
guys
you
up
that,
there
we-
saying this is great?
Reverend McAfee, who just left, convened a meeting just about a week ago to talk about, juvenile justice.